Hello everyone, welcome to another Identity in 15 session powered by WSO2 Identity Server. I'm your host Chamath. I'm an engineer at the WSO2 Identity and Access Management team. So in today's video, we are going to go over how you can configure OAuth2 device flow for your applications with the WSO2 Identity Server. So let's get started. So to go over the agenda for the day, first we'll see what is device flow, and then we'll see what we mean by input constraint devices. Then we'll take a look at why we need device flow, and then we'll see how the device flow specification work, and then we'll do a demo on how to implement device flow with WS2 Identity Server. So to go over, um, what is device flow? So device flow is useful for authorization flows that do not support a web browser or are input constraint. So it basically solves the problem of obtaining access tokens on devices where the user input is somewhat limited. So what we mean by input constraint devices is that devices that do have an active internet connection but lacks a web browser, and it has somewhat of user input is somewhat limited on these devices. Some of the devices that get put into this category can be smart TVs, gaming consoles, printers, and even automobiles. So then we'll take a look at why we need device flow. So imagine yourself trying to log into your favorite streaming service on your smart TV. So you'll have to enter your username and the password to log into your streaming service from the smart TV, and the only input device you will have at your hand would be the remote control, which would only have a few arrow keys and an enter button. So for to enter your username and the password, you will have to navigate through the on-screen keyboard, and you'll have to go through all the characters, the letters and the numbers through the on-screen keyboard and enter your credentials. And if you make any mistake, you'll have to go through this all over again. So essentially, it does not amount to a pleasant user experience. This creates a lot of user friction and can turn many users away instead of engaging them. Also, imagine yourself traveling and you want to watch your shows on the hotel TV, hotel smart TV. So you would be reluctant to enter your credentials on a temporary device that you are going to access. So these are some of the scenarios that device flow can help with. So it's essentially a method to authenticate users into input constraint device without having to compromise user experience and security. So to talk about device flow, it is an extension on top of OAuth2 specification, and it is designed to make it easy for users to authenticate using input constraint devices that we discussed before without that does not have access to a browser and has input limitations. So now let's see how it would work, this flow. So we have three entities here: the device client, which would be the input constraint devices, the OAuth authorization server, and the end user. And the end user will also have access to a secondary device. So when the user wants to log into an application or a service, it would click on the authorize or login button in the TV screen or whatever the device that they're trying to use. And then the device client would send a device authorization request. So this is the first request. And when upon receiving it, the authorization server would respond with these parameters. It would include the device code, a user code, and a verification URI in the response. So when the device client receives this response, it will do two things. First, it will use the device code and include that in the token request, and it would poll the authorization server for an access token. And secondly, it would display the user code and the verification URI for the end user. And then what the end user should do is they can access the verification URI that is displayed on the device using a secondary device like their mobile phones or their laptops and enter the user code displayed on the device. The device client can make things easy for users by displaying a QR code with the user code embedded into the verification URI. And also now the end user can make use of the password managers which are on their web browsers in their mobile phones and their laptops to input their credentials. So the user experience will be much better than if they had to enter it manually. Okay, so after the user code is entered from this verification URI, then the user will be prompted for authentication by the authorization server. If the user already have an authenticated session, then the user would receive a message saying you are authenticated. Now you should return back to your device. And the token request that has been polling since we got the response from the device authorized request to the device client will now receive an access token, and then the client can use that access token to log into the user's streaming service. So this is how it would work. Now let's go over a demonstration on how you can configure this using WSO2 Identity Server. So for this demonstration, I'll be using the latest release, WSO2 Identity Server 6, which you can download from the URL that we have added in the description. So you can go to this Get Started page and enter your email address and download the latest release, which is Identity Server version 6. So I already think I already have it running locally. So first we'll go to the Carbon console, which is the management console, and click on sign in using the admin credentials, admin, and then we'll go to the service providers, the left side pane, and we'll click on add new service provider. So we'll make name is demo app device flow and click on register. And next in the service provider configuration page, we'll expand the inbound authentication configuration and click on OAuth Open ID Connect configuration and click on configure. So for this demo, we are only going to show the device code grant type. So we can disable all the other supported grant types. We can keep the refresh token grant type because when we get an access token, we might need to refresh it if it expires. So I'm going to keep the device code and the refresh token grant type as the selected allowed grant types. And also I'm going to check this allow authentication without the client secret checkbox. So the device clients would not need to enter the client secret when initiating the device authorization request. So these would be public clients. Then I'll click on add. So you get a message saying the application has been registered successfully, and you'll see the auth client ID and the client secret. Next, we'll open up Postman. So I already have a request configured. So this should be the device authorized endpoint. It would be the host name port /002/device_authorize. And in the request body, it would be a post request. In the request body, you would have to enter the client ID. So I'm going to copy this client ID, paste it here, and send. So now you get a response with the user code, device code, interval, verification URI, and an expiry time. So this user code is the one that would be displayed on the user's device, and the verification URI also would be displayed. This device code would be something the device client would not display. It would use the device code to poll for an access token. So next I'll show you how you can initiate the request of token polling. So I will copy this device code, and this is the token request for token polling. We'll set the grant type as device code, and we'll set the device code here. Also, we'll need the client ID. So we have the client ID from the service provider configurations, and we have this right now here. So when we send it, now we get a response saying authorization pending. It's because we didn't authorize the user from the verification URI and the user code that we got. So now I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to the verification URI link, and we're going to copy the user code and paste it in. I'll click on continue. Now I'm prompted for authentication because I did not have any authenticated session. So I'll log in with the user Alex. Now I'm seeing this message displayed saying the login has been successful and we can return to the device. So now if we poll for the token, since the user has authenticated the device, now the authorization server would respond with an access token, refresh token, and the expiry time, which should get in the token response. Now the device client can use this access token in the applications to access users' resources. So yeah, this is how you can configure device code flow in your applications using WSO2 Identity Server. Now I'm going to show you another application I have already configured and deployed, which would showcase a use case. So I'm going to open the sample app I have deployed. This to emulate a smart TV experience that we discussed before also. So here in the smart TV display, you will get this authorize button. It will it is trying to connect your streaming service. So once you click on authorize, the TV display would show something similar to this, where we'd have the QR code, which would embed the user code, so the users can easily scan it with their mobile devices and authenticate, or else they can type this in their browser in the secondary device and enter the password. So I'm going to do it. Go to the URI and paste the user code. So until we paste the user code and provide authorization, the application would be polling for a token, which is the token endpoint. I will continue. Here I was not prompted for authentication because I already signed in using the user Alex. So so now it's saying to return back to the device. So when we go back to the device, now you can see it has authorized the application, and you can see user specific information, and basically you are logged into your streaming service. So this is all what I expected to do in today's session. So if you have any questions, you can add them in the YouTube chat. I can take them if you have any questions. Yeah, if not, we can wrap up the session. Thanks everyone for joining, and see you guys in our next Identity in 15 session. Thank you.